Such mill wheels turn not round, says the old song, and certainly in this country we have but too many which lie idle and inactive, and the stream, which once harnessed and made labour for man's benefit, rushes idly by. So wrote the Nationalist and Leinster Times, December 2nd, 1899. And what is true then is even more true today. The mills that once dominated the Liffey banks are now almost all gone.
We have the introduction of the mill into Ireland around the middle of the first millennium AD, and we have archaeological evidence for that. And in Dublin, on the Liffey, possibly the earliest mill that we have that's been excavated, and I was very fortunate to be on this excavation back in around 2000 in Chapel Lizard. They found a mill, a rubble stone mill, along with a mill race, and this was from the 10th century. Okay, so this was a very, very important building. So what you have here is a mill that would have been producing flour ground from cereals for a local community of maybe 100 to 200 people, and that would have been centred around the local medieval church.
Local people still remember the names and places of their old mills that were once important areas of local life.
Now, in the totally overgrown is the old mill. This would have been Wilson's mill. Presumably they were the last millers in the place, and in that is the old mill, and the border is right up against Harristown Estate. So I presume the Latouche family made some sort of arrangement, must either lease this land or bought it, and it would have been obviously powered by the River Liffey. But the miller's house is completely overgrown there as well.
But this harnessing the power of the River Liffey that was then brought into the mill through a mill race, they were able to do it at a much faster rate, not only to turn the millstone, but also to work all the machinery, the hopper, all these things that are around the millstone. And also that enables then more flour to be produced. The mills get taller and bigger in size in the 19th century, so you have 3-4-storey mills, and that in turn enables more employment.
Selbridge Mill is an example of a prosperous mill that expanded and still stands proudly in its mill race and riverbank and dominates the entrance into the town, as it has done for many decades.
There were 9 mills dotted along the River Liffey in this area, and we're very proud here in Selbridge that of those 9, there's only one still open to the public, and that is the mill here in Selbridge. So it started its life as a little corn mill way back in the time of Adam de Heffert. But as the landlords came into the area, they would have leased out the mill, and it evolved into what it is today. And it was a great source of employment locally. So in its heyday, there was 600 people employed there. There were lots of children, and the children were given 16 pennies, and the weavers got £1. They worked long hours, a 13-hour day, and they got their dinner and they got their breakfast by candlelight. So it was, as I say, a major source of employment, and we're very, very proud of it.
Recently discovered old footage of the inner workings of Shackleton's mill in Lucan shows how water drove great belts that powered the rest of the ever-expanding factory floors. Although the term milling initially referred to the action of grinding or crushing, usually grain between great stone wheels, it would eventually be used to describe all the uses made from harnessing the power of water that might include polishing marble, scutching flax, fulling wool, sawing wood, grinding mustard, beetling damask, hammering metal, churning butter, spinning cotton, weaving wool, making starch, extracting oil from rapeseed, and much more. The 1851 census records 5,700 millers in Ireland, and amazingly 240,000 mill folk, mostly weavers and spinners.
So we have generations of people working in the same spot right beside the Liffey, and it's no coincidence that you have places called after mills. Mill Street, Millbrook, all these places, not only in Dublin but around Ireland. Mills were central for social activity as well as economic activity, and also for industrial activity in terms of the development of industrial gear, industrial ways of life.
Sunday Independent 1926 remarks, perhaps of the industrial areas including Lucan, Palmerston was the most notable. Dalton tells us it contained 6 mills for printing works, 17 wheels for ironworks, 2 oil mills, 1 distaff mill, 1 stone and corn mill and 3 wash mills. That takes no toll of the lead and copper works. Importation of cheap flour from overseas, new technology and cheap electricity would eventually make the mill and its water wheel technology obsolete. Strangely, in a time of climate change, the water wheel technology, which does not have the same harmful impact on the environment as many modern industrial processes, may actually have a use once again in Ireland's future, as it did in our past.
You have a lot of weirs on the Liffey now, which people love to look at. They're beautiful places, but they're not seen now so much as things that are good for the ecosystem, or that are good for the river itself, or good for the fish. So these are things that we have to come to terms with now. It's just, you have the industrial past that we have that is very important to our past and understanding our past, and very interesting to people like me. And then we have the future of not only of these buildings but of the infrastructure of these buildings, and how we're going to treat them, and how we're going to use them, and how we're going to marry them with our future. So it's about looking at the two things and using them in a way, in a 21st century way that's interesting and good for everyone.